Greetings, everyone. In this forum, we will be focusing on a topic that may have been taken for granted, which is called ageism. Ageism is a form of stereotyping and or discrimination against a certain age group uh, on the basis of their age. This may be casual or systematic. My name is Candice, and I will be your moderator for this forum. Today, we have four panelists, namely Oze, Shirim, Fatiha, and Azam. Without further ado, I will pass the floor on to our first panelist, Fatiha.
Okay, thank you, Candice. So for today, I will be talking about familial relationship. So actually, familial relationship it plays a huge role in our life because any decision that we make will affect them greatly. So we could say that all opinion matters, or does it? Actually, the older that you get in a household, the higher status gets. So to support this, firstly, studies show that younger members will often think that their opinions are considered as immature or invalid. They're rarely taken in a serious manner, or worse, completely dismissed because the opinions came for younger ones. So, taking an excerpt from a book called Every Child's Right to Be Heard, published by Save the Children UK, through aspiration, children acquire skills, build competence, extend aspirations, and gain confidence. So their participation impact their development. However, they're always thought to have less experience and knowledge in certain issues, thus gaining lack. Next, children, especially young ones, they are commonly treated as if they're still immature. They remain as a child in their parents' eyes. They don't have a chance to have opinions in serious matters such as divorce. Study from the University of Northern Iowa stated that children are not part of decision making when it comes to divorce. And interparental conflict is a direct stressor for children. So I'll share you a personal story of a friend of mine. This friend, she actually fell into depression when her father treats her as if she caused him to have financial issues. He had to support both families from the previous marriage and the current marriage. So she openly has this constant suicidal thoughts. She have attempted suicide before. So she has actually become a victim to something she didn't have a say in. So she would probably have prevented the divorce, but she was anything but a child at the point in life. So next, younger members, they feel like they have less right to talk about their feelings or their worries, or they have this like constant feeling of being dismissed. So in illegal cases such as abuse or harassment, they're oftenly accused of being a liar, or they just gain less attention. So a news report in 2017 reported that a 14-year-old girl in Selangor actually tried to commit suicide by slashing her own wrist. Why? She was being molested by her own father. Did she not inform anyone? Yes, she did. She informed her mother. But her plea for help fell on deaf ears. She was traumatized. She was depressed. She gained trust after attempted suicide. This has opened many eyes to the harsh reality of life. So in conclusion, younger family members, they should be given more space and trust to propose their own opinion and to be taken seriously. Kids, when they reach a certain age, they know the outcomes of their actions. They won't just make up lies just to gain your attention. So, they depend on you to treat them. So treat them as you would expect to be treated when you depend on them later. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatiha. Well, that was a very, very strong perspective of age discrimination against young people in relationships. Moving on, Azam, do you agree with Fatiha about this discrimination?
Okay, thank you to the moderator, Candace, and a warm welcome to all the audience. See, I couldn't agree more with what the previous panel has said. However, this is not the end of the issue. There is a huge concern on ageism at the workplace too, especially at managerial level in Malaysia. Age discrimination or ageism occurs when the skills and qualifications of the employee are overlooked due to their youth. To begin with, there are several reports that state some of the employers prefer older workers as they are deemed more experienced. If this goes on, the employability of young workers will continue to decrease. There are even some employers that deliberately demand unnecessary experience requirements, which is very discriminative against young people who are just starting their career. To make matter worse, young employees will still need to serve their time before they can get a promotion or pay raise, even though they have a high qualification. Besides that, younger workers also tend to receive unwarranted criticism either from their employer or their older colleagues. Their excuse of action was that younger colleagues are considered as immature and need to be straightened out straightly. Not only that, in some companies, opinions of younger colleagues are often taken lightly and not taken seriously. Just because of their youth, they assume that their idea is useless and not worth to hear. This can be observed in the parliament where a young politician, Sheikh Sadiq, is bullied by a senior parliament and are called kid. Lastly, some companies even refuse to pay young workers additional wages and bonuses. And worse, some may even refuse to pay the minimum salary. This is proven by a study from Federal Reserve Board of Governors, which revealed that millennial men now are earning less on average compared to 40 years back. Thus, what happened actually is that younger workers are given excessive tasks beyond their scope of work while still earning the same wage salary as older workers. It is believed that this is because employers assume young workers does not have many responsibilities and commitments unlike the older workers. Young workers can help to struggling to keep up with various bills, student loans, and ever-growing house costs. In conclusion, there is no doubt that ageism against young people does exist in our society. We need a law that protects young people from being discriminated. This issue needs to be given more attention and should be raised to higher authorities for further actions. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Azam. I see that you do agree, Fatiha, regarding this matter. So, moving on to maybe a contrasting perspective. Shurim, what do you think of ageism at the workplace?
Thank you, Candice, for inviting me to this forum. Actually, there are some points that I want to highlight here, which will tell that older people are more likely to become victims of ageism in the workplace. First, the employer refused to hire or promote older workers because they believe that younger people are more energetic and could give the company a better future. Some employers ever encourage early retirement to the older worker as to reduce the workforce in the company. But if the employers does not want to retire, some employer will pressure them by reducing the over-intensive benefit and even their salaries. Some negative stereotypes such as that older workers should move aside to make room for younger workers who need to support family. They are less competent and there's no point in training them for promotion as they are going to retire soon. Many young managers do not want to work with older workers no matter how good their skill is because they do not feel respected by them. Young managers think that their instruction can be followed if their workers are younger than them. I have seen my father's friend application for a medical assistant position in a private hospital. Unfortunately, he was rejected because of his old age. But the managers explained that the hospital need only young workers who give off a credible image. I think that manager action was very offensive. So older workers are more prone to become victim in ageism. Thank you.
Thank you, Shurim. As I mentioned, that is a very contrasting perspective on ageism. Moving on to the last panelist, Oze, what do you think of ageism against older people?
Thank you, Candice, and good day, everyone. Discriminations against older people, and specifically against mature students, have become a normal occurrence that they are often overlooked by the institutes of higher education. Today, I would like to highlight the various discriminations that mature students usually face when they enroll in any university and why they happen. First, direct discrimination. Direct discrimination happens when a person is treated less favorably because of their age or their apparent age. Most scholarships nowadays limit their applicants by restricting the age requirement only to those at the age of around 20 years old. For those that are above the age requirement, which mature students often are, would have their applications ignored despite their outstanding achievements and qualification. Secondly, indirect discrimination. This happens when a policy is enforced to everyone, but would indirectly put mature students at disadvantage. Most universities would enforce a strict no working while studying policy to all of their first-time students. However, this poses an indirect disadvantage towards mature students who were not able to obtain scholarships for the reason I mentioned before. And by preventing them from working, this would hinder their ability to make ends meet and would force them to take loan, which would increase their financial burden after graduating. Third, harassment. Harassment is a different form of discrimination where offensive comments are made using a mature student's age as a subject. A friend of mine who is also a mature student would usually face this kind of discrimination. His younger classmates would often make offensive jokes about his age, even though they were without any ill intention. He said that he often had to shrug it off so as to not create any conflicts. Moving on, the reason why mature students are being discriminated against their age is as follows. First, the minority group in any social setting, which mature students are, often faces the harsher treatment. Higher education is dominated by the younger students, with only a small number of mature students, and any resources used in education are deemed better used for the younger generations because they are the future of the country. However, any resources used by the mature students are usually met with hostility because they are expected to be working instead of studying at their age and should not be stealing the resources allocated by the younger generations. However, I believe that if more mature students are enrolled in any university, they would not be subjected to this discrimination. Lastly, mature students are expected to be able to tolerate these discriminations because they should feel lucky to be given a second chance at higher education and should not complain. Mature students are deemed mature enough to be able to cope and tolerate this discrimination. But the sad reality is they often have to struggle with the issue stemming from this discrimination and have to suffer all of them in silence. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Right. I would like to thank all the panelists for their very diverse views. In short, both Fatiha and Azam view that younger people are more often being discriminated against, while Oze and Shurim are both think that older people are the ones being discriminated against. So let's move on to some questions to further clarify your perspectives here. So representing the young people, Fatiha, in your opinion, is ageism as prevalent of an issue as opposed to more known problems such as sexism or racism?
Okay, thank you, Candice, for the very interesting question. So, in my opinion, it is actually as prevalent, but ageism is more subtle than racism or sexism. For example, both young and old people, they both have a chance to get paid for their experience and skills, but the possibilities in which their opinion matters depend on the situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatia. I agree. I guess it doesn't really matter that much whether it is prevalent or not. What matters most is the fact that any form of discrimination exists at all, whether it is based on a person's gender, race, or in this case, age, which, as you have said, is a subtler form of discrimination that needs to be more closely examined. Lastly, representing the older generation, Shurim, what do you think of the term overqualified and its synonym to the experience of older people and not hiring them?
Thank you, Candice, for the question. Okay, the term qualified, overqualified is used by employers just as an excuse from hiring older people who have more experience as compared to younger applicants. Most employers think that older workers will demand higher salary, will not follow the instruction well, and will demand respect from younger colleagues just because they are older. However, this is all misconception. Older people are among the most hardworking workers as they are want to keep up with the younger colleague and contribute to the company. Their experience is valuable regardless of being paid a high salary or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirim. Interesting. In the corporate setting, it often would be more beneficial for a company to hire those of more experience. But I guess it is situational and highly dependent on how much the company can expense for the new hire. To conclude, and as a solution, this is my own personal opinion. While I agree age discrimination is prevalent in society, specific situations result in a specific age group being discriminated more than the other. based on what was discussed and presented, the young are discriminated against in various forms of relationship as well as in the workplace, while the old are also discriminated against, but more so in higher education and also in some sectors of the workplace. With this being said, it matters not which age group is more discriminated against. As Ozzy has mentioned, the minority group in a social setting often faces the harsher treatment. And unfortunately, it's that the hostility um, is the usual response to react to the progress of the minority. Personally, as a younger person, I have faced being discriminated against in a workplace because I was the youngest. But I was in charge of people who were older than me, and many I thought I was incompetent due to being young. Going back to university as a mature student was no easy feat either, as I can attest to the points Ozzy has made again, for being subtly ridiculed or for being too old as a student. In conclusion, we can never tell who is more discriminated against, but we can all agree that this existing form of discrimination is already damaging to society. And as a society, we should aim for a more accepting environment for people of all ages. Ageism should be eliminated in order to progress a more inclusive society. Thank you, panelists, and thank you everyone for watching.
Thank you, Candice.
Thank you.